Alright, here we are, back at the sink with a couple of penguins and a couple of razors and a few stones. And tonight we're going to do some honing and some talking, and maybe we'll get somewhere with the conversation. Right? Penguins, move them over here, keep them safe. Got the improved eagle. It's like, I don't know, 5/8, 6/8 something, full hollow, soul engine. This jammy, this is the Boss, soul engine. Just test razors, nothing special. And today, the video, you saw the title is, Do I Need Koma? So I have some Koma, right? A chunk of Koma. Anyway, you're saying, Keith, that's not a J-net. Why are you talking about Koma if there's no J-net on the table? Well, that's the thing. I'm out here at the sink today, and I'm thinking about this. I constantly get asked, do I need this? Do I need that? People in the forums and groups that I navigate in and out of, I constantly see people asking what they need, and then you have people telling them what they need. I'm here to tell you, you get to decide what you need. It's the only way this works. So, Koma, in the world of J-nets is a pre-finishing honing step you do on your finishing stone, your Wasedo, Hanyama, Hanzan, whatever you want to call it. Level 5 plus from eBay. Whatever. All right. And I do have a J-net out. Pretty nice. It's kind of like a Karasu. Well, it's not kind of like a Karasu. It is a Karasu. Anyway, so yeah, this is a coticule, right? So my point in all of this is going to come like sort of around full circle. So bear with me, right? So let me get some water in the tub. Don't need a lot. Just need some. Put a little water on the stone. Right? Got it wet. Should have a towel here someplace to wipe my hands off. Would be a good idea, Keith. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this jammy here. And I don't even know if I'm going to get the improved eagle out. I just have it out here for moral support, I guess. So, this is a less lat, right? You got the hybrid on one side, you got the yellow coticule on the other side. There are two seams of less lat, right? These sometimes can be found when they come out of the ground. You have yellow on one side, yellow on the other side. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, they're two different sides, they're two different things, they're this, they're that. Don't make yourself nuts, about like which one you think you need or which one somebody else thinks you need. Always evaluate a stone on its own merits, right? So here I have a slurry stone. So we're going to make a little slurry. Yeah, that's good. Really wish I had a towel here. Anyway, so this has been honed up to, some level on since, and I'm going to do a little honing on the yellow coticule. Some people will tell you yellow coticules are not finishers. Some people will tell you yellow coticules are often not higher than 7K. I don't know where they're getting that determination. When I sometimes when I read people say stuff like that, I want to ask them, do they have a 6K and an 8K from the same series, and they're saying that the 7K coticule definitively lies in the middle? No, they probably don't, okay? In fact, one guy I know who used to say that, I know he doesn't have a 6K stone. Well, at least at the time when he said it, he didn't. So my thing is, right, if you're going to say stuff, know what the fuck you're talking about, you know? And when you're in the rooms of honing the threads, the groups, the this, the that, you do yourself a favor. And when you hear people tell you stuff like that, all right? If it's not important to you, then like by all means, like just completely ignore it. Because like why bother getting involved in a conversation with somebody about something you don't care about? Because that doesn't make sense. That's a waste of energy. But if you're like investigating coticules and somebody says, oh, well, you know, they're really only 7K, feel free to ask them how they determine that. Ask them to, you know, delineate their testing regimen, and their comparison methods, their control groups, and how they adhere to any sort of a scientific process. Now you notice the slurry is a little thin. You'll also notice that I have a little bit of swarf in the slurry. So, anyway, do I need coma? Ask yourself, like, you know, why are you asking that question? You know, what is missing? Like if you're honing, right, and you don't have coma. I really love it when guys don't even have JNATs and they're asking that question. They're like asking for future reference. Dude, please. Please stop. That's just asking questions. You're like the kid in the back seat. Are we there yet? But if you're actively pursuing honing on JNATs, and you're engaged with them and you have one, you got yourself some Nagura, and you're like working with it, and you don't have a coma, why do you think you need coma? Are your edges not sharp? Are they not sharp enough? Are they not smooth enough? Is it simply a case of someone told you that they hone on coma and you don't and you're curious? Because that's a valid thing, okay? No shame in that, all right? But what it comes down to, if you're going to buy something, what are your expectations? What do you think is going to happen when you buy the coma? You don't have a coma, you finally get one. Is the sky going to open up and a funnel of light going to come down? Is it going to like grace you with like coolness and suaveness and wonderful edginess that, you know, nobody else can compare to? Oh, let me just tell you, that's not going to happen. But what do you expect, all right? So, I don't have too much more to do on this blade, on this stone, for what I want to do tonight. Anyway, what are your expectations with coma, right? So here we are. I did some work on the yellow side, right? And now we have this side. Now, contrary to what a lot of the gatekeepers used to tell me when I was first learning how to hone, I've always loved Les Lats, by the way. I've always thought these are like see the marbling in there? Like, isn't that dope? Like, just, you know, and you look at it on the side, it's got it too, right? They're like, oh, they're all the same. They're the same as yellow coticule. You're spending a lot of extra money and you're not getting anything else. Well, turns out that these are a completely different type of stone than a yellow coticule. And you do have a different type of particulate of a much smaller size here. So this opens up possibilities. What are my expectations from honing on one? Well, I've been honing on them for a long time, so I kind of know what to expect. So basically, I'm going to get a different feel on my edge. Is it necessarily going to be better than the yellow coticule edge? Well, it'll be different, and it'll be usually for me when I hone it. I don't know what anyone else is going to come up with, but I wind up with a little bit of a crisper type of edge with a little more attack on it. So I can say that maybe it's a little bit sharper, and I kind of enjoy that. But the feel is awesome too, and the look is awesome too, and all these things factor in, right? That's for me. So anyway, when I first got one of these, people were like, oh, you spent too much money, you should just use a yellow coticule, it's the same thing. I was like, okay, fine. So when I first got one, I was without a hybrid layer slurry stone. I only had this. And now, at the time, I had already been convinced. I had convinced myself that these stones were different enough so that I didn't want to do my work on one with yellow coticule. Because to me, that's like, what's the point? I might as well just hone on a yellow coticule. And maybe that's what happened to those other guys. Maybe they had one of these in yellow slurry stone, and they weren't going anywhere because they weren't really maximizing this material. Quartz and chloride, by the way, are the main players here, I think. So I don't know. I don't know what drove them to say those things. People in the, the annals of honing forums and groups, they say a whole lot of shit. So I finally got myself one, and then things took off with Les Lats. I really started to really hit my stride with the stone. And then it became apparent to me there were different types of Les Lat. So you can see this one I'm about to use here. You see that red blush? That red blush didn't show up, I think, until about 5 or 6 years ago. All of the Les Lats had this sort of marbly look, and this has marbly too, but it's a different type of marbly. You can see that, right? You can see that the marbling is a different style. If it was a painting, it would be a different painter, right? Or at least from a different style of paint application. So I have that. Now this is another one. Let me get this wet so you can see it a little bit. I have this, right? And this is from some real sketchy eBay guy. The stone was very interesting. And this was an end piece. There was this weird vein in it. I've never seen another Les Lat look like this, but it's definitely Les Lat hybrid. Right, so there's that. And yet, here's another one, right? Let me get this wet so you can see it. Completely different marbling, right? It's kind of similar to this, but maybe not quite the same. But there's enough similarities to there where I say that these two are similar. And here's another one. Now look at that. Let me put this here. Very, very similar, right? So these two are similar. So to me, right, this is kind of a match. Now I've honed with this stone with all of these slurry stones. And I really like this one because it's like a perfect rectangle. I even sealed the sides with cashew lacquer. I had no reason to do that other than I felt like doing it. But to me, this is the setup I wanted. Did it change my life? No. Did it open up new doors to amazing edges that I would never have gotten any other way? Did it make me feel good? Oh, most definitely. Now, what I will tell you is that I've used both of these on this stone, right? This and this. And I prefer the edges from here, from this one, right? This one works. I like this one better. Someone's going to say, well, why do you like them better? Are they sharper? Are they shaved better? Well, I like the feel better. I like the honing feel better. I do actually think I got a bump in sharpness, but I can't really say beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's absolutely true. You're asking me what I'm doing, right? Let me take a look here. Okay, that's enough. Now you saw me working this and you heard some hideous sounds, right? That's because this Les Lat hybrid is so hard. It doesn't slurry so easily. And I'll be honest, I've had a lot of these slurry stones over the years. This is the one I kept because it seems to work the best. Like, I wouldn't want to use a piece of this stone to slurry itself, right? There's a certain hardness here that would slow things down, right? I think this is similar enough stone in look. I like the edges from this more. I feel better using it. I prefer it, so I stick with it on the stone, right? That's all. You got these guys with microscopes and protractors and, you know, the pocket protectors and the propeller hats, and, you know, they struggle with simplicity. And I strive to always keep honing simple, because all we're doing is taking hair off our face. All this is a razor. All I'm doing really, well, all I'm going to do is go shave. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of grab on the stone. So the polished bevel and the polished spine flat are mating with the polished stone surface, and it creates a little bit of drag. The minimal amount of slurry, there isn't enough particulate in the water to sort of break up that like vacuum that happens in there. Now, some guys want to call that stiction, but there's nothing static about this, okay? Stiction to me is like when the outdoor faucet freezes for rust internally, and the definition of static friction is the amount of force needed to break it free, or the amount of force resisting it. This isn't static. Now, let me just touch base on undercut for a sec. Saw a picture of some guy, he was honing, and he's like, oh, I'm happy with my undercut. Yeah, there was a ton of water up on the blade, but what he was demonstrating wasn't undercut as a tell for honing. If you want to gauge undercut, you got to do it with like, yeah, literally the amount of water I have here now. All right? The more particulate you have in the water, the more the water, the slurry, is going to undercut. The particulate breaks up surface tension and allows it to climb over the edge easier. The more water you have on the stone, the easier it is to undercut due to inertia. Body in motion wants to stay in motion. If you're moving the blade too fast, it literally goes underneath. So while technically that's an undercut, it's not what I'm talking about when I'm describing honing practices. You want to go at a methodical speed, and you want to look for an increase in the undercut. And as you're going from stage to stage, you have to monitor the speed you're going at and the pressure you're using, because more pressure is also going to affect it. So learning undercut is you have to practice, right? And you have to be very consistent in your stroke. All right, so this was a good session on my last lap. I'm very happy to get this edge to this point, and I could probably go shave with this right now. Well, I know I can. Okay, and now we are approaching the actual topic of the video, but I've been talking about the subject, do I need coma? I hope you picked up on that. It's like, do I need this slurry stone? No, I don't, but I want it. you know. Did it make my edge better? Well, maybe it did. It's hard for me to quantify. I can't tell you you gotta have one. I know that I want one. I know I put in the legwork. I got one and I use it, right? It makes me happy, and that's enough. So here we are with this, and I have a Magiro. It's pretty nice. I had this out to lap because there was this like weird thing. There was like a weird crystalline something stuck in the stone. It happens sometimes, and normally not with Magiro. I don't understand. I would expect what I saw it to be in one of the 2 layers of Tenju. I don't know, but I happen to love this Magiro because it's really creamy, okay? It's so creamy pasty. It's got this lovely orange hue. And, well, you know, it does a great job. And I have this Koma, which, you know, is a little big, so it's like kind of a, you know, distraction. Really, it's like half the size of my hone, but it's a really nice piece, and it's got some really nice, like, wood grain striping run through it. So, you know, this is Tokyo. And, yeah, these are both Tokyo, actually. I don't have any Betsu out on the table. So I'm going to just get that one wet, the Koma. And I got this. So why am I not doing a full progression? Well, in this particular sequence, right, the coticule fills in for the early stages. Now you're like saying, oh, Keith, you're saying that honing on the less lat is like honing on Botan. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's like honing on Tenju either. I could go shave with this, right? What I'm doing now, I'm going to dump a little of this, I think. What I'm doing now, right, is, I don't even know what you, it's like sort of a crossover type of thing, right? So this is bringing, theoretically, I'm bringing the edge back a little bit. And forgive me for not giving you like K, you know, like I'm not telling you it's like this K or that K, because that kind of talk just kind of gets in the way, you know. Everybody is like determined to talk about like 10K, 15K, 20K, Gakumyo this, Kuseki that, Suhario, Naniwa, Superstone, Chosera 10K, blah, 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 blah. And I get that we have these numbers and they're a point of interest and they're a gauge, you know, but only within their own series. You know, when you get to naturals, all bets are off. So in theory, this little mixture I did here with Magiro is, what do you call it, coarser than what I was working on the less lat. The less lat was theoretically finished. So I'm like crossing borders here. To me, an edge is the sum of its parts. So this edge is going to have a different sort of flavor to it than one where I had, per se, like, for example, if I did everything on synths up to, you know, 8, 10K, 12K, whatever it is, and then jump to a JNet, that edge is one thing. In that sort of situation, I would probably go to Botan. Do a full progression on Nagura. And to be honest, I'm not big on going to 12K on synths prior to doing JNet work. It's not something I do. Often I go right from bevel set. Sometimes I'll go from 3K, 4K, or 5K. I almost never get my 8K or 12K wet. When I want to do like prescription honing, where I need like an absolute benchmark and I want to test a new synth out, I will go the numerical route. But if I'm just honing from my own brain, which is what I do quite often, this type of like jump back that I just showed you is something that I might execute. And if I hadn't done it before, it would be interesting to find out if the edge has a new feel, a different feel, or this or that. But I have done this before, so I know what to expect. I hone a lot. I try a lot of different things because, the color by numbers thing is kind of boring. So I don't rely too much at all on synths for anything other than the very early work. I use them for knives. But knives I hardly go over 2K, so. Alright, so this is actually where I want to be for Majiro on this blade. So I want to do a couple of things. I don't want to contaminate the water. Put that in there, soak for a sec. Clear that off. It's a nice looking stone, right? Anyway, let me clear. When you are working and you want to make sure you don't want to contaminate, it's a good idea to take your blade after you rinse and do a wipe. Right? You can't see it too much, but there's some residue in here. And you really want to get that out of the striations or whatever. Just rinsing on the water is pretty good, but it's not perfect. Giving it a wipe usually helps, and you got to be careful too. You can't like get crazy. You can cut yourself and you can damage your work. So, all right. So here we are at the topic. Do I need Koma? Well, I could jump right now to Tomo Nagura, and I just happen to have a nice piece of kita here, Nakayama kita. You can see the stamp. Very pure kita. A very old Tomo. I've had this a long while. It has a light, I don't know if you can see. It's a light Iramono blush. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but there's just this hint of a reddish hue in there, which is really entertaining. There's also a bit of pear skin going on. But anyway, do I need Koma? To be honest, you don't need anything. You don't even need a J-net. You can just go buy a Mach 3. Also kind of soft, pasty. Dumped off a little, there was too much water. So do you need it? Well, do you want it? What do you expect it to do for you? Are you honing on Nagura already? Are you not getting the edges you want? Do you think honing on Koma is going to be this massive game changer? So for me, it wasn't this massive game changer. My first Koma was from a well-known online seller. My first Naguras were, and they weren't stamped, they weren't Osano, they weren't, tested, qualified, and honestly, they weren't very good. When I first got my first real Koma, with the Sano stamps, I'm not going to say it was this big game changer, but the light definitely did come on. if I never got that coma, if I just kept honing the way I was honing, I would have been shaving fine. I was shaving fine, right? But it did seem to me to be kind of like a puzzle piece that fit in. One that was missing, but maybe I didn't even know it was missing in the first place. And it just opened this door. I never tell anyone that they need coma. I only ever tell people they have to make up their own minds. You have to decide what you want. You know, if you're worried about the expense, and you're like, you can't sleep at night because you're not sure if you need one or not, just buy one. Get over it, buy one. And if it doesn't do anything for you, just sell it. I don't understand a lot of this hemming and hawing that guys put themselves to. I don't know what to do. What do you mean you don't know what to do? So anyway, so this is good now, right? Wiping it off again. And this is a big step to make sure like you got it really clean, because the next step is tomo. It's a completely different type of thing. Your particulate is a lot finer. So anyway, back to, do I need coma? It's really, you have to decide. Same way I had to decide whether or not I needed this for my less lat. Same way I had to decide whether or not I needed this to practice with. Same way I had to decide whether or not I want this in my collection. I mean, honestly, I didn't need it. Just wanted it. Yeah, but is it going to make my edges better? You make your edges better. Stone is just a stone. Need a little less liquid on here. So will coma allow you to make a better edge? Well, it might. I'm going to put just a hair more particulate down. But if you don't have it, you might not notice. There's very little actual tomo slurry here. There's just some water at this point. It's slurry, but I'm shifting to what I call weightless honing. Alright, so that's done. So anyway, some of you probably came here waiting for a definitive answer about whether or not you need coma. Sorry, I can't tell you that. I can only tell you how I think about things when I'm buying stones and when I'm honing on them. If I want to hone on something, I decide if I want to pay for it or not. I get it, and if I like honing on it, I keep it. If it doesn't do anything for me, I still might keep it if it looks cool, but more than likely I'm going to move it out. I want to end on this puppy. So let me get the penguins and put them out here. So listen, all of this is all about having fun. That's all any of this is. Keep it there, you'll have fun. You do a lot of honing, you'll get a lot of good edges, you'll have a lot of great shaves. If you think you want something, you might want to use it, buy it, use it, test it, come up with your own input. Forget what the geniuses online are trying to tell you, because they ain't honing with your blade in your house and shaving your whiskers. That's you. So you make that decision, right? If it's Koma, go get a piece of Koma, work with it. Work the hell out of it. Work it up and down the pike. Work with it, work without it. Do comparisons. Take notes. Eventually you'll come to an understanding about whether or not that stone has done something for you. And if it has, great. And if it hasn't, it's still great. Then you get to figure out what to do. Keep it or move it out. Chances are it'll probably help you, but maybe not in the ways that you're thinking. It's not going to turn, a great shaving edge into, a lightsaber. Not on its own. That's you. You got to do that. So anyway, get your stones out, hone some edges, have some shaves, have a great time, enjoy the weather. Hopefully the rain stops soon and the sun comes out and we get some nice fall weather. Anyway, this is all about having fun. Keep it fun. Until next time, take care. Talk to you soon.